We're going to have this panel discussion in English because we have multilingual participants on the panel. And first of all, thanks to Barcamp organizers for having this panel discussion. And also thank you guys for your time, for being here. So we're going to talk about Armenia in space, or we as just recently had the joke, Armenia lost in space. Lost and found in space. Yeah, but the space is limitless, but we have a limited time for 1 hour, so we will try to narrow it down to some specific topics. Well, it's not a secret that the global space economy is dramatically growing to multi-billions of dollars, and all the major countries have their space programs, space agencies and everything, and we had a interesting heritage in decades ago in space, and so we're going to talk about all of that kind of topics here. So let me introduce our panelists. Avetik Keropian, who is a member of IAS Armenian Aerospace Society, and he is holding a board chairman position of Karen Vartanian Educational Foundation. 16 years of experience in GIS, in remote sensing, experience in education, teacher in New York University, Sorbonne, Abu Dhabi, expert and certified trainer for different GIS products. Please welcome Pakrat Sarkis Balabanyan. Yeah, sorry about it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's weird. Yes. CEO of Laureate Company, Vladimir Gershenson. And, Deputy Director of Laureate Company, Olga Gershenson. And please welcome Vachik Khachatryan, member of IAS Space Society and one of co-founders of Bazumk Space Research Lab. And he is also leading an AI group who is working on satellite imaging and all that stuff. Yeah, so I would suggest us to do a quick look at the past of what Armenia has been doing in space like decades ago. So I would like to ask Avetik to shortly cover where we are, where we were. I mean, what have we done in space? Because recently these topics have been refreshed, and we're talking a lot about what we did in space technologies during the Soviet times. Where are we now, and what are we looking into to the space direction?
Thanks, Ike. First of all, it's not secret that Armenia has a very rich heritage in space research and exploration, most importantly in space-based optical systems. And the most important example are the Orion space-based observatories, which have flown on first Soviet space stations, spacecraft, and did some amazing research of space based on spacecraft, and also have returned back to Earth. And you can also, I would advise everyone to go to a space museum and have a look at them. Armenia had varying participation in Soviet space program, as I said, optical systems, but also space orientation systems. First, sun and star orientation systems have been developed in Armenia. Astro company, state company, used to be the head construction bureau of space-based optical systems. We had Galactica Space Research Organization. Which was one of the leading companies in also the space research in Soviet Union. And that has become also our biggest problem. The wasted potential of Armenia has become our biggest problem, but we are gradually gaining that back. And I think with the recent development, we have a historical chance to, not just look back at the wasted potential, but also build upon that. And also, I would like to mention that space exploration itself has been in Armenian scientists' focus, the mathematicians, physicists, and both in Armenia and in the other parts of Soviet Union have been involved in space rockets, the carrier rockets development programs, as I said, the space orientation, but also all of the guidance systems of space rockets Armenian scientists have been heavily involved in that. Mathematicians, physicists, and rocket scientists as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Avetik. So we know that space exploration actually covers a lot of areas, including manned missions, planetary, and asteroids and everything. So I would like a little focus on the planetary research, and particularly our home Earth research, which has started from the very first spacecrafts that appeared on the orbit, doing the imagery of our planet for different reasons, which are huge, and we will take a look of those. And Bagratjan, you have a big experience working with that data, and could you please briefly talk about how the demand is growing worldwide for the Earth exploration from the orbit, and particularly you now have an experience working in Armenia, and how is that demand growing in Armenia, and what are your expectations? What would you like, let's say, to have in addition as a data from space, particularly for Armenia?
Yeah. So Earth observation is one of the domains that is important for Armenia now, in addition to communication and other sectors for defense. But Earth observation, especially for change detection, to understand what is happening around us, and also to understand what are the resources that we have, because we have very limited resources, boundaries. To optimize the utilization of this requires a proper Earth observation science and services. Now we have lots of resources already available, and ARMSAT-1 will be another resource. The ability to manage this huge amount of data that we will be bombarded with, to have access to this data, to retrieve it on demand and when required, is a big challenge that I believe should have a proper design and proper engineering for it. Usually when you have satellite imagery, the price chart, if you put it on a chart, it will be something similar to when you have the new imagery, it will be high, then gradually the price will go down, and after a while it will go up again as an archive. So having all this information, collecting whatever was there before, and plan for the future is very important. To do different kind of analysis, to study the change and start forecasting, which I was talking today in the morning, start forecasting what will happen if we continue in the same way that we are doing. So that's it. I don't know if anybody else would like to add.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, as you just mentioned, we had a big splash in the news recently regarding our satellite on the orbit. Do you guys know how to recognize Armenian satellite in the orbit?
With big nose?
Yeah, and the solar panels are tinted. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, as you said, Bagrat, so yeah, we are expecting that we will have a new flow of images and resources coming from our satellite. And we know that there are already networks that gives us online access with some free and some paid resources of the imagery in different ranges of spectrum, like Landsat, lots of, you name it. So, Vladimir, your experience working with the images and your technologies, particularly with the antennas and everything, what would you, let's say, expect in terms of collaboration and looking into the future for the Armenia? From your perspective, it is interesting, for example, like having multiple antennas with the schools or the universities, or like having a single antenna that will just share the data in the networks and providing access. So what is your vision in that direction?
Thanks, and is it okay? I'll listen.
It's working.
Okay, working. You see, it's not only the question one or two or many antennas to install, and the question is what are the aims and how to move and so on. And so we know well that Armenian people are well educated historically and involved in the past, but at the same, it's not only the problem of Armenia, it's the problem of many countries of their rich heritage, and at the same such kind of pressure on the new modern technology changes and fast motion in information and so on and so on. So it's not enough to have one satellite in the orbit. It's maybe more the deal of prestige or something like this one, or to test the technology, to show how does it operate, but at the same time, even to focus the agriculture or any other resources, you need to know well surrounds and neighbors and so on and so on. So it's the question how to communicate, how to predict, and how to deal with. And so my recommendation is to deal with the new generation and the young population to implement and to convince them that it is perspective way of the new type of life all on the planet, and so creating such kind of, we call, planet Earth crew in Armenia as well, like in many other countries, which can have global thinking with the local action, sustainable one at the same time. So it's not only the hard or software pieces in orbit or in a country, but this is the way and style of life with such kind of lost in space, not only Armenia, but planet Earth as a unique phenomena we know about.
Yes, thank you. If you would pass the microphone to Olga, you just mentioned about the programs with the kids and the schools, and I know you have a big background and heritage of working with kids with the satellite imaging, and you have lots of success stories. So how would you see bringing those programs to Armenia, working with the school kids particularly, and so on?
First of all, I would like to continue your thought about and question about past. I think that this is all our Soviet heritage is our biggest problem, because people think that we are space industry and we are very famous and we have very good. When I'm asking people, what do you think? What is our share of market in the globe? They think that there is at least 30%, and it is less than 1%. It's Russian now. So we have this heritage is just prevent us from understanding that we need to start from zero. We need to start with competence which we need to grow up again. We should forget about our famous yes, this is the same. And so I think that why we are going to school and from third grade, because we would like to help to motivate children, because they are actually not very interested in space. We, for example, just recently we have such a very interesting story in physical technical lycée of Fistech. It's a famous Russian, and children, wonderful kids, 8th grade. And we propose them very interesting from our side, very interesting engineering task. And they did not choose this exercise because there were another task much less difficult, just to do something very easy. And so if children which are coming to Fistech Lycée with mathematicians and physicians, they don't want to have some difficulties to overcome, then it is very, very, very difficult. So what is our idea? And we try. From one side, we have now very interesting movement or some project in Russia that we actually initiated on Duty for Planet. There was two ideas. First, to teach and to explain children how to use existing images, which we all use. Free of charge or not free of charge, it depends on. Sometimes Maxar is ready to sponsor educational programs and so on. And another part, to make satellite constellation by kids. Why? Because we dream about constellation as a company, as a private company, since 1998. We published first our idea that we need to give all mankind free of charge 50-meter resolution data. And till today we did not realize so because of many reasons. I will not. But so now we have this crazy idea that maybe with children, with kids over different countries, we can make constellation. Will be compete with planet, for example. And the first stage of this project, of this crazy project, already happened, and we have now, not we, but our community, we have this on Duty for Planet program. Russian Space Agency is launching free of charge this school satellites. Universities are involved, and I think that in spite of all this now political crazy things, and I hope that we can still cooperate and somehow share this experience and add your competence and your excitement about this program if you are sharing this with us, and to move in this direction, because it's not very expensive. Actually, the fund of supporting, which supports this program, gives to each school team something like 2 million rubles. Difficult to say what dollars, but it's not. They buy from Sputnik. They buy platforms, then they are developing. Their obligation is to develop payload. And for example, we have very good program in one of under Moscow region school. They are developing telescope on board, because they have telescope at school, but every time it is clouds, and so they would like to go on space and to see and so on. So, and they are developing this payload with very skillful company which was created by Fistech. How it is? Alumni. And they help children to understand how to do this and so on. So we are very welcome. I mean, we will be happy to, if you will join. And how to find the way, I think the most important is desire.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because yeah, I think it's really important, because we also have seen ourselves how it is, working with kids, like we have these rocketry clubs now in Armenia, and IAS as an educational program has more than 30 years of history now, and at least 3 of us here are from IAS. Aerospace Society, and there are more people. Yeah, that's true. So what I'm saying is that it's investing into the kids and bringing them into the space technologies that's really great. And we have also seen that kids that they don't have boundaries in their mindset. So sometimes they can invent something that NASA will invent 20 plus years later. We know such case, but we will leave this for another discussion. And yeah, so talking about imagery, I would like for a moment slightly to come down from the space to the atmosphere. And I know, Vacik, that Ayas and Bazum last year had 2 successful flights through stratosphere with around 30 plus kilometers and doing some videos and the measurements. And if by success some of you guys have attended Pagrat's lecture on the first flow, it was an amazing one. And he was talking about the data, the importance, usage of how to work with that, the municipality and the emergency and everything. So as I understand, there's also a demand of imaging, not from the orbit, but also from the lower altitudes, from the atmosphere. So Vacik, my question to you is that how do you see the possibilities of going forward, of adding another sources of imagery, measurements, and the scientific data as an addition to the satellite sources, but adding stuff from the atmosphere, from the stratosphere?
Yeah, as Haik mentioned, last year we had 2 successful launches of balloons up to 30 kilometers with cameras, and we recorded videos with it. So imagining the imaging of Earth from satellite and from the balloons, there is a huge difference. Imaging from satellites, it's like most of the satellites are operating above 500 kilometers, but the balloons can operate up to 30 kilometers. So as far as you go, the resolution of the images will drop. So you will get lower and lower resolution, and for that you need higher and higher quality of optics or bigger and expensive satellites. So balloon imaging is the industry is growing, and there is one successful Armenian-based company in US which is doing balloon imaging successfully, and this market is growing, and it has very huge potential to do from these regions. But there are many problems to solve. It's to keep in 30 kilometers altitude the balloon. It's very hard problem. There are many companies like Google Loon, for example, who did who keep balloons in that altitudes almost 200 and plus days. But the company is closed now because they said it wasn't so profitable. They wanted to have to make an internet connection, not the imaging, for Kenya and this kind of countries, low-income countries, to make internet for them. But the company closed, so that some technical issues were solved, but some it's not like public information. So the companies that want to go and reach these goals, they need to develop themselves. So we have a project in Bazung working on a still theoretical, but we will get to practical cases. we want to keep in station the balloons and navigate them using winds. So solving this problem can really help overall having low cost, let's say low cost satellites up to 30 kilometers altitude.
My question for Bakrat to you. Taking into account on what you are working on and the problems you are now solving, do you think if having additional images from the atmosphere on using the balloons would bring you more effective data, taking into account that, putting aside the weather, let's say if you can have images like in few hours, for example, because it will take shorter time to prepare the balloon and the cameras and launch it in area you are interested in, and then have images from different altitudes, right? One it's you know, flying up, and will it bring a value of what you are working on now currently in Armenia?
Yeah, definitely. The current limitation in the drone industry, which is the alternative to the balloon, that you have the battery technology is not mature enough, and so you have very limited time, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours of flying. Balloon will solve that problem by having stay in the air with cheap technology and capturing continuous imagery. And not only imagery, also communication. It provides communication facilities for different implications. So definitely the balloon is important. I would like also to mention that we are all sensors now. It's not only balloon, it's not only drone. There are different technologies now that are using Facebook imagery or any kind of photos that we are capturing to superimpose them on their geographical location and start extracting data from them using machine learning. Yeah. So it's age of information. As I said, we are being bombarded with all this. The information is there. It's matter of changing the information to knowledge. That's the main challenge, knowing how to use the available huge data for our benefit. Understanding what is our problem is the issue, and then trying to solve the problems that we have. But definitely balloons are a very good alternative to the drones if they solve the technical issues that they have.
You see, we have a rather interesting experience in our program on Duty for Planet of launching such kind of balloons with the testing of the equipment prepared by some teams to survive in conditions and to measure the radiation above the clouds, and not only for photos. It's such kind of very nice mixture of adventure and testing facilities and so on. But talking about the utilization of the geospatial information, I'm completely agree that drones show now the new niche and new combination of with the satellites, combining these technologies and so on in receiving new geospatial information and so on. And from the other, on the other hand, such kind of big events like Google balloon programs and so on, it's quite another story with big money issues and not very good results of the implementation such kind of technology. So it's necessary, I suppose it's necessary to be realistic and to find the correspondent niche to utilize. And we have very nice Russian team, for example, for balloon launching, like Denis Yefremov, you know, I suppose, Astronautica, and they prepare such kind of testing technology like on the hand, on the very, very simple one. And so I suppose it can be done, maybe some launches can be done together and so on, and it's interesting as well. And like a preparation of technological teams to launch to space, not only on balloons, but to prepare and to test the whole chain before the specific launch. Thanks.
Thank you. I know that some of the CubeSat manufacturers are testing their equipment with the flights to stratosphere, particularly, you know, every single piece and so on. And talking about the CubeSats, I would like to bring our focus back on making imageries using the CubeSats, because the nanosats are getting more and more interest, and it's easier to launch them. They are cheaper and so on. So we have our satellite, which, if I'm not mistaken, it has 1.8 meters of resolution, right? And yeah, so we will have the operation, and we will have another ground station here in Armenia that will get the images. So having into your minds all these discussions and future demand and everything, so how would you use that specific images from our satellites, from your interests? So this question is mostly for all of you guys. So you know, each one of you are using slightly different and in some areas common usages of the satellite imagery. So having at your hand yet another and now Armenian resources of 1.8 resolution imagery, what would be your usage? How would you like to have them? How often, and so on? Let's start from Avetik here.
First of all, I would like to mention that most of the imagery that the industry uses is captured at some point, and it is processed before being given to consumer. Now, with having our own satellite and having access to raw unaltered data is opening up a huge window of opportunity for the industry, in that the specific, very small detail can be actually analyzed, because you are missing that in processed images. And processed image, of course, you know that at some point it all comes to security, it all comes to national security of the provider, that you will be having a bit less than they captured. Okay, so now having the direct access to raw unaltered data is a good opportunity for our image processing industry. There is some already in Armenia. We know there's Intel there already that is doing these things. SkyAgro, who are processing the aerial images for the agricultural purposes. We know a lot of companies are working in artificial intelligence field that are eagerly waiting for this raw unaltered data from the satellite. So I think that this opportunity is historical opportunity, in that we are going to have a mass of data that is going to be very different to what we had previously.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I would like to look at it from different perspective. So it's the satellite that we have, ARMSAT-1, hopefully when it works, it is a great awareness campaign on the one side, because the resolution that it's providing is not the highest available in the market. So it's good awareness for the country. Second, it's good for our defense, because we are not dependent on any other third-party provider to provide us these images if required in the future. But it's good as a starting point to ask ourselves what's next. What is next? What we will do? Do we need a national space strategy or not? What is our goal from the space strategy? What do we want to achieve? It's not about only the imagery. As I said, we have 30 centimeter imagery already available. And this is good as a starting point, but again, it gives us the opportunity to think about the future and start talking about, do we need a national space strategy, and who will be the custodian for it?
Yes, thank you.
I would like to mention about the first Israelian satellite, RSA. And it was known like a most effective, commercially effective program in remote sensing all over the world with the same resolution. But it was 20 years ago, and it was very nice team, still available with the RSB and the future program, which was very experienced in manipulation with the satellite, receiving data in time, and so on, and offering new business opportunity for the community, because it was not the completely competitive front end, even that period of time. But they offered to in other countries the possibility to install their own ground segment with the secure approach with the secure task of the images on board and so on, to manipulate with their own territory. And it was very successful approach with, and we were involved as well, dealing with many scenes and many possibilities with the very high quality instrument, because not only the resolution, spatial resolution has sense, but the dynamic range of the image. This is another very important characteristic of the satellite. And even that period of time, it was a very high performance with, I don't remember exactly, 12 bit per pixel with a very low noise level. And so we had a possibility to find the lost ships, not only in space, but in the Arctic regions, even during night, because of the very high sensitivity of this detector. And we have seen these lost ships in situation of polar night. So what I mean that it's not only the question of operation and experience of how to process and so on. This is the way of the business, new business opportunities which can be offered to the society, even educational society maybe, and so on, which is maybe even more impossible than additional information available in your hands.
Yes, thank you.
No, maybe I will be not so optimistic about business opportunity or the role of the satellite, because if you will look on the market, like I told yesterday, China is launching 147 satellites with 70 centimeters color video. Argentina is launching 300 satellites with 70 centimeter resolution, and so on. It's actually very connected with the question of Armenia. If we would be one common government of our planet, do we need so many satellites, and how to be with one satellite with such kind of resolution? It's really very interesting. If it is political question to have own satellites, this I understand. If it is some kind of motivation to build own constellation, maybe, but global. Again, we need to somehow to go to the market. What is missing in the market? If I would choose satellite, I will choose not, for example, panchromatic 1.8, but infrared satellite with a resolution even 200, but which will give you the detecting point 2 by 2 meters, and you already can be then part of a global constellation which is still using only 400-meter resolution for infrared channels, and it is too late when we see such fires all over the world. I cannot understand why all mankind, all governments is not launching satellites with resolution 200 meters, at least in infrared channel, because it's a really global problem. And no, of course, it is next step who will catch this satellite, no, this fire and so on, but this is niche which is missing. Or I don't know, if to think about this model that Israel realized with 2 meter resolution panchromatic, they sold so-named product which was satellite on board. So they sold uplink station, downlink station, and minutes of on board which you can, and they sold it to military mainly, and they have very good salesman from military from Israel. He was brilliant in selling, and he sold it all, each unit $15 million. so and the people who buy, I don't know the mechanism, they believe that they don't know what they really image. It's a whole very mysterious story, but from business point of view, really wonderful. So if you will, for example, invite us as a crazy commercial people, we can think how to make the if again these data are available outside, because what we know for Kazakhstan, for example, when they bought satellite from Airbus, they did not have right to work globally. They have right to work only on the market of 11 neighbors countries, and that's all. So usually these people who are selling the satellites, they are preventing you from influence to any global market. And if you have the same situation, then it is terrible. If not, then we can think together, if you invite, how to commercialize this satellite. It's interesting, though, but I'm sure that there are some nuances. Would you like?
Yeah, it's hard to say something positive about after your speech, but yeah.
You are doing some AI on the imaging, right? So
Yeah.
what do you expect from our satellite for you?
Yeah, sure. I want to add a little bit positive things about that, about the Armenian satellite. Like the most important thing that I think about the Armenian satellite is that the infrastructure is building from that. Like it's like a test satellite. Maybe it will not give us lots of business value and grow our market to sell something, but it will definitely help us to build infrastructure on top of that, the ground stations, manipulation of the satellite, hopefully from our side, and to learn from this, and also to do our next steps to develop our own satellites, rather to buy it and solve niche market problems. I can state one problem that is now growing. The satellite images, data from the satellites is getting bigger and bigger as the resolution gets higher. So sending this data to Earth is time consuming and has it's a problem for manufacturers. So doing onboard image processing on satellite is another market that, like, there is lots of information that is useless. You don't need to send it back to Earth. Like, for example, it's all cloud, and the images contains most of the images contains like 70% of the images, like Olga said, it's cloudy. So this data is sent back to Earth, and it takes lots of time and needs or ground stations in different countries to get this data. Yeah, like you can imagine, the satellites are passing above our head in like 10 minutes, and in these 10 minutes you need to dump as much as useful information as you can, and creating image processing models and that are very low power have low power consumption and work precise on the satellite can have an impact. So we can develop such kind of algorithms, for example, and we can test it on our own satellite, maybe, hopefully, and then we can offer these solutions to different satellite manufacturing companies, for example.
Can I add?
Yeah.
So, if you look at the international trend, emerging trend in the space, since we are talking Armenia space, there are other implications also, such as collecting the derbies. We have one of the major issue of space. You have lots of junk in the space. And now different emerging technologies are coming to create satellites to collect these derbies and send it. And this is an emerging one. Or construction in space, building 3D printing in the space. These are the latest trends that people are working on. And if you look at the imagery part, SAR and radar technology is an important aspect, which is, so the current satellite is, as I said, it's a starting point, but the next one we can look at what is the demand and how we can benefit. And radar is one of the most important things because it will not be affected with the cloud. And also now with AI, you can colorize it because it's usually not multispectral, it's monochrome. So these are.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you all. Thanks so much. And I know we're running short in time. I would like to have some time for the questions. You know, it was really a little time talking about the perspectives for Armenia in space. And I hope that for the next Barcamp we will have another topics to cover, like the robotics and the derbies and everything. There are lots of, I think there are lots of opportunities for Armenia to have, you know, works to be done in space, and I think some of them could be really in a short term. And I would agree that Bagrat has mentioned that we will need a good strategy for the space program in Armenia, and I'm sure that the first steps are already done and it has started. So again, thank you all. If you have questions,
maybe one.
Yeah. Thank you.
My question is maybe for Olga. So without proper So my question is for Olga. Without proper education, we can't develop great scientific research. Without proper education, we can't create a proper scientific research, especially in the space research industry. So what do you think? What is the proper way to create that educational system around space research? It's to go down from schools and kindergartens to teach children or create scientists, researchers in that field and start up above. What is the best way to go with that?
Sorry, я плохо слышу.
What we see now for education, the main problem is that in current usual program, school program, there is nothing about space. There is some words about Gagarin. We know all this about, I don't know, Luna mission and so on. About remote sensing in our program now, it is just few words. So what we see and what we try to do, we try to go to curriculum, to school curriculum, and to give lessons based on, for example, there is environmental lessons for small children, and there is atmosphere. So we bring equipment, they receive data from space, and they see atmosphere really what it is now from space. Something like this. Or physics, radio physics, and so on. We bring again equipment, or we show how to work with radio waves and so on. So we try to bring in each curriculum where it is possible something which is connected with space. Not with space common, because we are mainly about Earth from space, but we also have teams in Russia which we are building a small constructor for children, and it can be used on the 4th floor grade and so on. So we can join again our efforts. I know here you have very good team which already wrote textbook or the book about how to use space images and space technologies in education. So it can be a very good opportunity.
I would delve a little bit into the education and the making space exploration more interesting for kids. IAS is one good example. Yeah, Armenian Youth Aerospace Society has been in place in more than 30 years, and hundreds of kids and students have gone through that. But I would also bring some recent examples. Last year, with the Ministry of High-Tech Industry, IAS has conducted a space camp in August. And then this year, we have also announced the second space camp, which is taking place end of July. The tests have been already submitted, and the selection is in process. So it's all about doing a lot of things in order to bring people in, to bring the interested kids in, and also to grow their interest. Doing small things, but all the time is the recipe for success.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We're done. Thank you so much.